Hello, this is Malbeefance. Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 3 of my introduction to Fleet Commander Pacific. For those of you that have not watched the previous 2 videos, I recommend that you do so. Get yourself up to speed on the background of this game very quickly. It is based on a Avalon Hill tabletop board game called Victory in the Pacific. There are some changes in the computer game. Obviously, there would have to be. But other than that, it's a pretty faithful representation of the original game. Now, in the current playthrough, I've been playing as the Allies against a computer-controlled Japanese, Imperial Japanese fleet. Okay, we're going into turn 5. Now, the computer currently has 13 victory points, and that is actually bad. They should be a lot further along than that. As I'd mentioned in previous episodes, the weight of reinforcements is well on the Allied side. For those of you who are familiar with the Second World War, especially the Second World War in the Pacific, you are very much aware that time and resources are massively against the Japanese. And this game faithfully represents that. So we're going into the fifth game turn, which represents the period April 1943 to August 1943. Now, during the actual war, that was mostly, the main action was mostly around Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands in carrier battles that took place over to decide who was going to control Guadalcanal. To give you an idea of how badly things have been going for the computer and the Japanese in this game, the Japanese have already lost over 20 ships, including all 6 aircraft carriers from Kido Butai, the original Pearl Harbor Strike Force. Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, Soryu, Shokaku, Zuikaku, they have all been sunk in various battles over the last 4 turns. Along with them are there's one more fleet carrier that was lost, the Unio, along with 4 light carriers, 5 battleships, and 7 heavy cruisers. In comparison, the Allies have lost less than half a dozen battleships, 1 aircraft carrier, the Yorktown, and a couple of heavy cruisers. So yeah, so the game has been going swimmingly in my favor. So let's go ahead and get back into it, and we'll go ahead and get 2 more turns done here for this episode. So now the Japanese get the mighty Musashi, has joined the fleet. I am picking up 2 more land-based air units, and then temporarily the Allies are getting use of the British aircraft carrier, the Victorious, and I'm picking up only just a handful of reinforcements this time. The battleship Massachusetts, the heavy cruiser Wichita, and 3rd Marine Corps Division joins the battle in the Pacific. So now the computer, playing as the Japanese, goes ahead and sends out their patrols. Now this is going to be very telling this turn. With the number of losses that the computer side has taken, where he sends his patrols is going to give away the computer's thoughts on its future prospects. So we have 1 battleship that's going to patrol down in the Coral Sea, a large force patrolling in Indonesia, another large force patrolling the Japanese home islands, and now we're back to the Allies deploying our patrols. Now, there isn't much left over. Ise is under repair in the Japanese islands, and Musashi is available. The Nagato is, well, Cameron Bay cannot repair anything, But Nagato is there, and I'm hoping that she'll go to Japan to get repaired. I'm hoping they won't bring her out into the fray because she has no defense whatsoever. All her armor is gone. One hit is all it would take to sink her. The fleet carrier Hio is available. The reason that I'm bringing this up is that there's only 2 Japanese ships that are available to raid. So those are the only ships, and one of them can't even reach. The Musashi cannot raid all the way down to the Coral Sea. Only the Hio can support the Hia'i down here, and Hia'i is already damaged, so this was a sacrifice on the part of the computer, if you ask me. Distraction raid it might be, but distraction for what? They're not able to do anything anywhere else. They've got, like I said, they've got this medium defense force here in Indonesia, which combined with their land-based air is enough to prevent me from using the British forces to attack Indonesia by themselves. And then they have a force here in the Japanese islands that's defending the Japanese islands. So let me get my patrollers out. San Francisco will patrol the Aleutians. Astoria patrols the Northern Pacific. The Idaho is available, but she is on the west coast. I doubt she's going to be able to do this, but I'm going to try and have her patrol the Hawaiian Islands. Note, she failed her speed roll, so she's going to have to return to port. I'll have Chicago patrol the Hawaiian Islands, and now we're going to go do some damage. I want Wichita will patrol the Central Pacific. Let's see if I can make it. I'm going to have that entire force. Okay, they did. They made their speed rolls, and Victorious would have made her speed roll, but there was a chance Pennsylvania and Massachusetts wouldn't make it. So I'm doing this to set up 3rd Marines to be able to take Midway back. So now down here at Espiritu Santo, I'll have Quincy, and just in case Portland, they'll patrol Micronesia. Chester, Indianapolis will escort the Indiana and the Wisconsin against the Hia'i. Yes, I know that is overkill, but I just want to be on the safe side. And the entire force at Port Moresby. Now, I can raid them into the South Pacific. I will be able to support them with land-based air from Guadalcanal, or I can link up with the British and we can do some serious damage to the Japanese fleet in Indonesia, and I think that's what we're going to do. Colorado and Mississippi and New Mexico, they may have a hard time making their speed rolls to get there, but let's give it a shot. Whoops, what happened there? Oh no, that's how I was trying to patrol them. Oops, sorry, did not mean to do that. That was meant to be a raid. Okay, so let's go over here to Ceylon. We'll have Cornwall patrol Bay of Bengal. All the other cruisers will patrol Indonesia in support of the raid force that I've got coming from Port Moresby, and then I'll have the rest of the British units raid there as well. Alright, so that is it for my patrols. So now land-based air movement. Now the computer has all 4 of the Japanese land-based air units available to them, and it looks like I've got 10 on the Allied side. So now the computer is going to split up his land-based air, which is what I want him to do. So I'm going to deploy my land-based air in those places where I don't want to have to deploy an aircraft carrier in order to stave off a potential raid. All So now I could use a lot of land-based air to go ahead and fight a battle in the South Pacific. And to be honest, I think that is what I'm going to do. Yeah, so the computer took the bait. It went ahead and it deployed its last land-based air into the South Pacific because I went ahead and I deployed one. And so now I'm going to put the rest of mine in here. This is really the only place they can do any good other than backing up my cruisers on patrol. So now the computer does its amphibious assaults. So Curie and Sasebo are going home. Yokosuka has deployed here into Indonesia. I'm not sure what they're planning on doing with that. Alright, so my amphibious assaults. On the west coast. Best he can do is come out to the Hawaiian Islands, and then I can deploy him further from there. 3rd Marines going to Midway. And then 1st Marines, I'm going to have them come out into the Coral Sea. So that way at the end of the turn I can put them, yep, they sent Nagato, but Nagato failed her speed roll, so she's not going to be able to take place in the attack. Masashi goes to the Japanese islands, and Hio went ahead and joined the Indonesia force. Alright, so everybody in Ceylon. That was not everybody in Ceylon. This is one of the problems with the game. Well, luckily I was going to send them there anyway. Okay, so the 2 British battleships did make it. That was most important because I'm not sure if the American battleships are going to make it. So everything down here in Port Moresby. And they did. Okay, so we got 5 battleships there in Indonesia. Japanese deploy their I-boat, and the Japanese gets to pick the order of the battles. So here we are in Indonesia. We're going to do that giant battle first. Let me see. What do I want to do here? Wasp, Saratoga, Hornet, and Enterprise. Okay, so we got a preponderance of air power. We got a preponderance of shooters as well, battleships and all. So we're up against Yamato, the Hyuga, 3 heavy cruisers, the carrier Hio, and only the 1 air flotilla. So I'm going to go with air because we've got a good advantage at air. Nope, surface attack it's going to be. Colorado is sunk. Mississippi is sunk. New Mexico disabled. Ramillies disabled. But they get to return fire before the damage goes into effect. I got an additional battleship. I'm going to fire at Yamato. So there's 3 battleships on Yamato. Hyuga's disabled. Yamato took some serious damage, but they're disabled. Puma is sunk. And the Yokosuka Marine Division is sunk. So the only surviving battleship is on our side, the Royal Sovereign. We are not retreating. However, the computer is. I am not going to pursue. I don't want to accidentally get caught in a night action and have my carriers get shot up by the cruisers. Now here's another glitch in the game. I'm going to get an opportunity, those carriers that I've got here in Indonesia, they're going to get an opportunity to do a air raid on the bases that are connected to the sea zone. You would think that I'd be able to get an air raid on Singapore, but they will not be able to do that. That is a glitch in the game as far as I know. So these guys are damaged. Ramillies has got to go home to Ceylon. New Mexico is only disabled. However, the closest I can keep her to the battlefront is going to be either Samoa or Pearl Harbor. I could send her to Hawaii, but I want to start massing forces for an attack on the Japanese home islands. So I will send New Mexico back to Pearl. So here it is. Here's my all of my carriers, all my surviving carriers. They can make an air raid. But for whatever reason, they're not able to raid Singapore, so I'm going to raid Cameron Bay, see if I can destroy that land-based air unit. And, okay, Enterprise got him on the first hit. Way to go, Enterprise. Big E. Alright, so now Central Pacific. This is for retaking Midway. Definitely I want to take air because they have no air assets, but they win the die roll. So their submarine damages my carrier. They did a lot of damage to the Massachusetts, but they didn't sink her. Massachusetts, however, sinks her Tormentor. 3rd Marines land on Midway. There's nobody defending. So 3rd Marines gets expended. We conquer the island. 3rd Marines will be back in 2 turns. Alright, now the big air battle in the South Pacific. So one of my units was damaged, but not taken out. And now we return the favor. My dice rolls with land-based air have been pretty bad as I play through this game, so since I have such a huge advantage, I'm just going to dogpile on one unit at a time in order to hope that the concentration will get me enough damage. And there we go. Okay, so made a liar out of me, and 2 units combined were able to take them out. I am not retreating. The computer is. We are going to pursue. Always got to leave one behind when pursuing. So I'll leave the damaged guy behind. So I'm going to dogpile on that land-based air unit again. Simply because land-based air units, it'll be 2 turns before they can come back, and the Japanese have pitifully few land-based air units compared to the Allies, so I can use that to my advantage. But that assumes that my guys actually hit the air unit, which they did not. That's going to be a training time stand down. For those of you who have been on active duty, you'll know what that means. Alright, the lone Hawaii versus the Indiana and the Washington. So I'm going to be magnanimous. I'm going to accept surface battle. I know that could cost me dearly. Mountain fires on Indiana, disabling it, causing a little bit of damage. Return fire. And Indiana finishes off her opponent. So Indiana's got to go back for repairs. And 1st Marines lands to reinforce Guadalcanal. Alright, so raids are returning. Idaho and the Hawaiian Islands goes to Pearl Harbor. All of my Indonesia guys, unfortunately... Oh. Can't mix forces. Where's the de Ruyter? Oh, she was patrolling, never mind. These are just raiders. Alright, so I want them to be able to reach Indonesia again, so that means I have to return them to either Samoa or Australia. So let's go to Australia. And then the remaining raiders in Indonesia, they're British ships, they are limited where they can return, so I'll send them back to Ceylon. And there is your sea zone control. So now, please note, the computer had 13 points at the beginning of this turn. I've managed to rack up 12 points, where they only managed to get 6, so I've dragged them back down to 7. This early in the game, pulling them back down into the single digits is detrimental for the computer. Now we do patrol returns. And now my patrol returns. Okay, so for those of you who have been following my trials and tribulations with... Oh, I forgot. They're damaged. Now, I don't need to spend any repair points on Victoria. She's only going away next turn. However, Massachusetts... I need to go back to Pearl Harbor to get repaired. So as I was saying, for those of you that have been following my issues with the microphone, I have come to find out what the problem is, and unfortunately the problem is me. My voice is what's causing the scratchiness and everything. I've got to get a filter that I've got to put on the microphone. So this is probably the last video that I am going to do until I am able to get that filter. Alright, so the computer is now dispensing what few repair points the Japanese islands have. And now my turn. Indiana will get her repaired and then completely repair the Massachusetts. West Virginia and Maryland are still sitting on the bottom. See, because we're going into turn 6 and Victorious is removed. We only got to borrow her for a little bit of time. Japanese do not get any reinforcements. Now here we go. This is what I was talking about. The Japanese did not get any reinforcements this turn. Okay, last turn the only reinforcements they got were the Musashi. Here is the Allied reinforcements for the United States for turn number 6. Okay, you have got 3 of the brand new Essex-class carriers, the battleship Alabama. You have 5 of the Independence-class light carriers, 2 heavy cruisers, and 4th Marine Division. And they all show up at Pearl this turn. Usually the way this game plays out is the Americans, or excuse me, the Japanese player will run wild in the beginning of the game, rack up as many victory points as they can possibly get. Either attempt to turn the Hawaiian Islands or turn Australia by severing the supply lines, and just get to 30 victory points as quickly as possible and try and hang on to that, because they're going to be losing ships, and eventually they're going to have to go on the full defensive. Now, they can get lucky and they can sink enough American ships to where they can stay on the offensive, but that is not a normal outcome. That is a little uncommon. But it is possible, it's very possible for the Japanese to win the game. It's just they've got to get enough victory points soon enough and slow down the American buildup and march across the Pacific to the Japanese islands. So now we're back to my patrols. Pick up those 2 extra points. Alright, so Wichita goes there. Alright, Lexington has fully repaired. Alright, so where are we at? Let's go back to Pearl Harbor. Chicago, take up her patrol duties. Quincy to Micronesia, Portland to the Coral Sea, Chester and Indianapolis to South Pacific. See, it's places on the map, it's times like this with the South Pacific where the land-based air really comes into its own. See, the Japanese have bases that border the South Pacific Ocean, which means that they can deploy their land-based air here. If I did not have Guadalcanal, then I would be reliant on aircraft carriers to bring any air assets into this battle. Like right now, one of the things I want to do is I want to take part of this force that's sitting in Pearl Harbor, and I want to attack the Marshall Islands. I cannot use land-based air to help me in this battle. So I've got to make sure that I've got enough carrier support in the event that the computer decides to concentrate all of its land-based air in the Marshall Islands. So this time we'll have Devonshire patrol Bay of Bengal, and the rest of the Allied cruisers will go back to Indonesia. I'm going to try and control Indonesia for a second turn, because what it'll do is it'll give me Singapore will convert, Cameron Bay will convert, and if I also control South Pacific again, then Northern New Guinea will convert. Alright, double check, make sure I got patrollers everywhere that I want them. No, I got one more to do. So Baltimore and Boston will take up patrolling in the Marshall Islands. But that also gives away, these patrollers, their location, it gives away to the computer what it is I intend on doing. So now they only got the 4 land-based air units this time, and we take turns deploying them. So what I want to do is I want to get the computer to concentrate as much as possible in the South Pacific. That way they don't have anything in the Marshall Islands. But they still put one in Indonesia because they knew I'm committed to sending a large force there. Unless I want to get all those cruisers killed. Alright, so I got 4 left. Cover those areas. Alright, amphibious assaults. The remaining 2 Japanese Marine divisions are going to Indonesia. Alright, what I'm going to do, 1st Marines, and I want 1st and 2nd Marines will go to Marshall Islands, and that way I can go ahead and I can take Kwajalein and Maliat. While 4th Marines will go to Midway as a staging point to attacking Okinawa. Alright, so the Japanese have finished their raids. The heavy cruiser Haruga in Cameron Bay, and then Issei and Yamato are still under repair, so they can't raid. So Haruga, that heavy cruiser is all they've got. They've got a massive force here in Indonesia. So now I got to rethink my strategy there. Well, I can't leave those cruisers hanging, so... Whew! The whole force made it. Awesome. We'll add another battleship from Guadalcanal. Now, here at Pearl Harbor, I need to get a little more support in here. The only defender is the cruiser Aoba, but all I've got to protect these 2 Marine Corps divisions are those 2 heavy cruisers, and that is not going to cut it. So, as much as I wanted to make a raid, well, no, I can probably still do that. Alright, so 4 light carriers and 2 battleships supporting the landings in the Marshall Islands. Everybody else at Pearl Harbor raid the Japanese islands, and Alabama fails her speed roll. Can Pennsylvania make it? Yep. Lexington's limited in how far she can go, because she's coming from the west coast, so I'll have her help out in the Marshall Islands. Alright, so all of my guys that failed their raid rolls, Alabama has got to go somewhere. Send her to Pearl Harbor. And I-boat deploys to the Marshall Islands. Where are we fighting? South Pacific. So that's a good strategy right there. That is not a good strategy right there. So if they went after one of my patrollers, they should have went after both of them. I'm going to split my forces, even though I shouldn't do that. I'm hoping for the best. Alright, one of them's gone. Alright, that didn't work as planned, but at least we did get rid of one of them, and we got 1 point of damage on the other one. So we're not retreating. They are. I will pursue. There's no danger other than losing some land-based air. And we got 2 hits, but that's it. Oh, okay, so land-based air, land-based air and Marines, they just automatically, if they take damage but they survive, they just automatically get repaired in between turns. Now look at this. 6 land-based air units all attacking that one, and it came all the way down to the Australians. The Aussies wound up taking them out. All these other guys softened them up, I guess. Alright, Chester is disabled, but they are not damaged. I know that doesn't make any sense. But it means they can go here to Guadalcanal and they'll be ready to fight next turn. Alright, so we're in the Marshall Islands. We're going to take advantage of our air power. Not going to work. Who is that? Lexington is disabled but not sunk. And all of my surface combatants fire on the wheelbarrow, which manages to dodge 2 battleships and a cruiser, and is disabled by the other cruiser. Talk about lucky. Alright, Lexington has got to go someplace to repair. We will make that, so from here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we'll, and now we get our air raid. So this was a bad place for them to send the cruiser to retreat to. Because now I get 2 air attacks on it. And that's it, sunk in port. Alright, so first Marines land on Kwajalein. And we'll see them again in 2 turns. While second Marines land on the other island, who I keep pronouncing wrong. Alright, the battle in the Japanese islands. Obviously we're going for air. Oh, they picked air as well. They're going after my battleship and disabled it. Alright. I split everything up because I don't want to take the chance of there being any surface combatants left to go after my carriers, but unfortunately we missed the Chikoma. Sicilia is sunk, and we only did 2 points of damage to the land-based air. So this is still a threat, but we're not going to retreat because I still do have a massive amount of air power here. And obviously we're going to go for air attack. Land-based air is going after CV-10, which would be the New Yorktown in this game. And she was disabled. Alright, that should sink. Yep, Chikuma is sunk. Now can we finish off the land-based air? Yep, there we go. Alright, Pennsylvania and CV-10 go back to Pearl. And we get an air raid on Yokosuka Naval Base. And, oh, you better believe I'm going after Yamato. What an ignominious situation to have such a magnificent, such a huge warship destroyed in port, and it is too. It's destroyed, sunk and then destroyed. And for our second raid, we go after Issei. Are we going to get Issei? I haven't even scratched it. There we go. Leave it to the light carrier. So Issei is just sunk in port. It's not actually destroyed. They can still repair it. Alright, the big battle of Indonesia. Do we go air or do we go surface? Let's go air. Air followed by surface. Okay. So as usual, the computer is going to focus on battleships. They did some damage to the Washington, but not a lot. Now me, I can force a retreat on the part of the Japanese if I'm the only one with air power. But I don't, I know for a fact we've got night action coming up, and I don't want to leave all of their surface combatants untouched. So I'll take what I got on. Well, Nagato really can't do anything because with all of her hit points gone, she's not going to be able to fire. Okay, Hio is disabled and sunk. Hornet fails me. Saratoga got 8 hits on the Musashi. She's in bad shape. And Yamashiro was disabled. Yamalee's got sunk. Washington was sunk. Royal Sovereign was sunk. Oh man, they got all the battleships. Alright, we got to return the favor. Alright, so I'm going to have the 2 British battleships focus on Musashi. Washington will go after Nagato. And then I'll have my cruisers gang up on their cruisers. Alright, we got Musashi. There's Nagato. So we are now even in battleships for next game. 2 of their cruisers are disabled. 3 cruisers are disabled. Alright, we still have quite the fighting force, so we will stay. And the computer is retreating. Everybody is retreating. I am not going to pursue. I'll be able to get some of the escapees in the following air raids. Now I can split these. I can pull some of these guys out of this raid. That way I can hit more than one base. It's not letting me attack Leh, so the only target that I've got is here at Cameron Bay. Poor Haguro. Is sunk in port. Alright, raid returns from the Japanese islands. Back to Pearl. Everything in the Marshall Islands can go to one of our new bases. Hermes has got to go back to Ceylon. Everybody else here, I'll send them to Australia. And there we go. For all intents and purposes, this game is now over. I have managed to get enough victory points to where the slider is now over on the Allied side. We've got +4 victory points. The Japanese just do not have enough ships left over to put up an effective defense. Okay, you have a total of 6 ships here in Indonesia. So we got 3 cruisers, 1 light cruiser. Okay, so a total of 4 heavy cruisers and 2 light cruisers. The battleship Yamashiro, which is heavily damaged, is sitting in the Philippines. And the battleship Issei, which is also heavily damaged, and if you'll notice the two red circles there underneath the ship picture, that indicates that she is sunk at her moorings, but she is salvageable. And then you have a battleship and a cruiser left in the Marianas. So they really can't mount any kind of a defense. Okay, with everything that I've got left, hell, just what I've got sitting here in Australia alone is more than a match for everything they have left. So my point here being is that they're not going to be able to stop me from having more victory points than the computer will have for the rest of the game. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, this game is over. Okay, due to the issues that I'm having with my microphone and how it makes my voice sound really horrible, we're going to end this here and stop torturing your ears. And I will be back once I am able to fix the problem that I'm having with the microphone, unless I decide to do another Wreckfest video where all you have is the music in the background. All right, so thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of content, please leave a like, and if you would be so kind, please subscribe, as we are trying to grow the channel, and I will see you on the next one.